G'day Australia, good evening Internet, and namaskar to our friends from India. Welcome to the Wealth Boomerang Show. Is this a show about money? Well, yes and no. The real question is, what is wealth? And what does wealth mean to you? For those who already have millions of dollars, you may desire additional time to spend with your loved ones. A sick millionaire may wish to give all their money for good health. Some people may want a deeper or more fulfilling spiritual connection. We believe that whatever you value is wealth to you, and we believe that whatever you send out will come back to you. Every week, we speak to people who have operated their wealth boomerangs correctly. They may have boomerang back from tragedy to triumph, or boomerang back from rags to riches. Either way, their stories will touch, move, inspire you, and instruct you along your journey. So sit back, relax, and welcome. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Jeremy Britton, and this is your Wealth Boomerang.
Your head is there to dream your dreams. Your feet are there to follow through. Your heart is like a boomerang, boomerang. What you send out comes back to you. Boomerang, boomerang, boomerang. Look inside and you will find all your wealth's inside of you. Wealth starts inside your mind.
Today, Orane Swan is an author, a property investor, and a property developer. Once upon a time, she was a single mum and a little girl who came to Australia and could not even speak English. Orane has overcome many obstacles in her journey from single mum to property millionaire. She's here tonight to tell you what steps she took to overcome poverty, depression. Orane, welcome to the show.
Thank you for inviting me, Jeremy.
Tell us, what was it like for you growing up in Mauritius?
Well, I was born on a small island called Mauritius, and I was the seventh of 8 children. Our family were quite poor. I suffered from learning impediments, so when I went to school, I couldn't pass my exams. Now, I am very visual. In those days, this is years, I'm talking a long time ago, people weren't aware of whether you were visual or not. So because I couldn't pass my exams, my teacher would force me to kneel outside, and they were very barbaric in those days, to kneel outside with a big sign on my back. That caused a lot of issues in my life. So from that time onwards, I remember going to school, never having any friends. So I grew up from a very early age feeling very sad, very unhappy, unable to really communicate with people. So I believe that they say that give me the child from 1 to 7, I'll give you the man or woman. Mm-hmm. I feel that that's really impeded my performance in my life. I grew up with really low self-esteem and confidence in myself. Also, coming from Mauritius, I was always fearful. I was fearful of sleeping on my own. I was fearful of going out. I was fearful of speaking because I was afraid to speak. We moved to Australia when I was 10 years old, and I thought that would be a great start for me. But when I started school in Australia, I suffered from bullying because at the time I spoke French, not English. And in those days, it's not like it is now. They didn't like new Australians. So I was bashed and it was just really awful. So I could say that the first 10 years of my life, 12 to 13 years, was quite horrific for me, which caused a lot of issues in my life down the track. At the age of 21, to run away from my family, I thought that I would get married at 21. But you've got to understand that 2 half people cannot get together and have a perfect relationship. And that's what happened between my husband and I. He was very emotionally unavailable, and we didn't really click in a lot of ways. So I decided to have children, thinking that the children was going to fill me up. So I had 3 sons from my first marriage. When the children were about 12, 10 and 9 months old, my husband decided to walk out on me. That was my first episode of depression. After he left me, I started getting really depressed. I couldn't get out of bed. I had anxiety attacks. I just didn't get out of my dressing gown. My father used to turn up at my door and say, "Get out of that dressing gown." And I just did not want to get out of my dressing gown.
So literally couldn't shower, couldn't get up.
I didn't, well,
you're still
some
feeding the
days,
kids at this stage, though?
Well, I had 3 kids and the baby was 9 months old. So basically that was my first episode of experiencing depression in my life. After my husband left me, probably about 2 years after that, I entered another relationship, because at the time I was 35 years old and I thought, oh my God, I'm 35, I've got 3 kids, who's going to want me? I fell pregnant with my daughter, and when I was pregnant, I went to him and said, look, I'm pregnant. And he said, I don't want you to have this child, I'd like you to have an abortion. So I said, no way, I'm not having an abortion, I'm keeping this child and I'm going to do it on my own. So I had 3 boys and a little girl.
I want to find out how you managed to bring up 4 kids and have the property as well.
I was 35 years old. What happened when I divorced, I was left with a block of land at Tenamera, which is in Logan, and $10,000. And I decided to build a home because my motivation was geared by fear. I had a fear of who was going to look after me when I'm old, because I grew up in Mauritius and I saw these poor people all over the place. So it was that fear that actually drove me. So what I did with a block of land, I built a home, and my first home, and I actually did it myself. I paid a builder to do it, and that was the beginning of my confidence in the fact that this was the first time I did something that I actually felt confident about. And so from there, I used the other $10,000 to buy another property in Moorooka. It was on 1,000 square metres, and I subdivided the block. Now, don't ask me how I did it, but it was just like, I'm one of these people, if I really want to do something, I do it. So I subdivided that. So by the time I was about 35, I had 3 properties. Because I suffered from depression during that time as well, I used to use property as my escape. And it was my escape and my redemption. So, and property's always been my passion. I love property. It's like I do what I love and love what I do. And when you do that in your life, you'll be successful. I did have a job, and I decided I didn't want to be shackled to a 9-to-5 job. And so one day I woke up and said, right, I'm not doing this anymore. And so I went on the single mother's pension because I had 4 kids. I couldn't cope. So I was on the single mother's pension for a while. But what I did to create money, I used to go to the auction and buy things. Like there was a time that I bought 6 mattresses, brought it home, and I sold 1 at a time, and that's how I made the extra money. So just because you don't have a 9-to-5 job does not mean that you can't be successful and make money. You need to be entrepreneurial. And that's something I think that I've inherited from my dad, because he had 8 kids, so you had to have a few jobs to keep us, you know, alive.
How did you know I'm going to become a multi-millionaire?
All I wanted was $1 million. That's all I wanted. I knew I wanted that when I was 10 years old in Mauritius, seeing these poor people, and I said, one day I'm going to be rich. And that has been my dominant thought for many, many years. So by the time I was 15, I had 3 jobs. I was working in a Devondale factory, I was putting potatoes in bags, so I was really working. Now, I worked harder and not smarter. Now I know how to work smarter and not harder. But in those days, I was never out with friends because I didn't have any friends, and I didn't want friends because I wanted to make money. So by the time I was 21, I had my own car, I had my colour TV, you know, this is years ago. So yeah, I felt good about myself. Between 1995 to 2001, I stopped investing in property. I started investing in myself. So what I'm saying to guys out there, if you want to make money, start investing in you. Jim Rohn used to say, and I used to listen to it every day, if you work on yourself, you make a fortune. If you work on your job, you make a living. And that was my mantra. I had it up there. And I started working on myself. So I started reading books and doing all sorts of things. I also believe in multiple streams of income. So as I got older and I got smarter, I became more confident. I'm a real estate licensee. I'm a finance broker. And so I started doing all sorts of things. I wanted to know everything about property. So I went out there and I became a finance broker because I wanted to be on the other side, knowing how to get loans. and I wanted to do real estate because I wanted to be, you know, to sell real estate. So when it comes to real estate, I know everything because I've been a renovator, a developer, I've strata titled, I just get a block of land. I'm visionary, so I see the block of land and I see 52 units on it, and that's basically what I'm doing at the moment. When we grew up, there was no such thing as mentors and coaches and all these things. I really believe personally that being an entrepreneur is actually, I feel, this is my opinion, you're actually born an entrepreneur. And I feel that from a very early age, I just knew things. And my father was a little bit like that because he used to, in Mauritius, he used to build a house and then move on and move on. So I've sort of learnt that.
Some of your skills you've got from your upbringing, and you've also got some of your skills from learning from other people who have done these things and mentored.
I do everything myself. I did learn something when I moved to Sydney back in You want to know when I started making money? What happened? I was a single mother. I started becoming a finance broker. I went to Sydney for a ball. I met someone and he said, "What do you do?" I said, "I'm a finance broker." So he said, "Come for an interview." The next day I went for the interview. I got the job. I bluffed myself into this job. It was general manager of a company in Sydney. I moved there. I was given a BMW convertible. I hung around the right people. And I think what that did for me, it actually changed my mindset. I started hanging around wealthy people and thinking, right, I want to be wealthy, because I was living in Rose Bay. So basically that changed my life. And also I had met a developer who was changing a bread factory into beautiful units in Paddington, of which I purchased one of them. And so what I decided to do, and that was in 2001, I could smell the market was going to turn in Brisbane. I'm very intuitive, and I know it was going to turn. So I then decided to start buying property in Brisbane. I must say that I started making a lot of money, six-figure income when I moved to Sydney. It's just knowing the right people.
While you were working as a finance broker.
That's right. My life just went from being on the pension, getting a little job, you know, being a finance broker, to having huge amount of money, being in a situation where I had all rich and wealthy people around me. So that was the breakthrough for me. I came back to Sydney. I went home to my kids and said, right, I've been looking after you for the last 20 or so years. It's about me now, I said. And some people thought, oh my God,